Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, the series starts with our MC, Sunraku, having just defeated the final boss, praised by his elven friend Faria. Seeing as he's now done everything he wanted, Sunraku leaps into the air, kicking and slaying Faria. As we zoom out, we notice our MC celebrating finishing the VR game, Familia Chronicle, happy to have finally repaid Faria for putting him through the horrible game. Our MC narrates how over the years, hundreds of games are produced with the sole purpose of release, but sadly most of these games become trash games. Additionally, there are people who take pleasure from diving in and beating these trash games. These people are referred to as freaks, and our MC Rikuro Hizutome is one of these freaks, given the nickname Trash Game Hunter. Leaving his room, Rikuro gets ready for school, grabbing a bite to eat, changing into his school uniform, only to head out. Being a student of Mahanoki High School, Rikuro trudges through the school halls, clearly exhausted from staying up and playing games. At the same time, we cut to a shy girl, who spots Rikuro from afar, hiding and practicing her lines to start a conversation with Rikuro. Right as Rikuro walks past the shy girl jogs forward, calling out Rikuro's name, but sadly is interrupted as Rikuro has already begun chatting with one of his own friends. Cutting to a game shop, we see the owner, Mana Iwamaki, putting a poster up, hoping that the poster will draw in new customers. Just then, the shy girl, Rei Saiga, enters the store, greeting Mana, only to scan the store to see if Rikuro is nearby. Seeing Rei so focused, Mana tells Rei Rikuro isn't present today, teasing Rei, as Mana is jealous of Rei's youthful personality. Mana tells Rei that the last she's heard from Rikuro is that he is supposedly playing the trash game, Familia Chronicle, a VR game that has trash NPC dialogue, outrageous enemy attack patterns and hundreds of software bugs. On top of that, Mana states that it takes true skill to be able to even defeat the first boss, making raging a common thing among people who attempt the game. Before Rei can learn more about the game, Rikuro appears, greeting Mana, but as Mana tries to introduce Rei to Rikuro, Mana notes that Rei is gone. Venting for a bit, Rikuro states that the Faria is the sole reason that his gaming experience was horrible, stating that Fairy simply causes more and more issues for Rikuro to resolve, and on top of that she gets party members killed. Amazed that Rikuro didn't give up even after all that suffering, Rikuro reveals that the sole reason he put up with all the annoying bugs and NPC interactions is so he can beat up Faria during the final cutscene of the game. Happy to see that Rikuro is satisfied with his performance, Mana notices Rei listening in on their conversation, asking if Rikuro would like to try out a non-trashy game this time. Suggesting Shangri-La Frontier, Mana explains that in terms of enjoyment, the game has been specifically designed for players to enjoy, piquing Rikuro's interest. Heading home, Rikuro begins reading up on Shangri-La Frontier, learning that the game has the Guinness World Record for the most players logged in at once. Apparently, the story of the game involves a mysterious group of aliens from space who had crash-landed on the game's planet, where a society of medieval robotic aliens begin to foster. Fascinated by the sci-fi elements of the game along with the thousands of positive reviews, Rikuro boots up the game. Rikuro also learns that Utopia Entertainment Software, along with genius programmer, Tsukuyo Tsukuri, who was the lead programmer for Shangri-La Frontier, getting Rikuro even more excited about the game's world. Placing on the VR headset, Rikuro opens up the game's start menu, forced to craft his own character. Sifting through the thousands of character classes, Rikuro reasons that the Twin Blade Mercenary class sounds pretty flexible, choosing it and moving on to his character's origins. Stumbling across a Wanderer, Rikuro is happy to hear that Wanderers have low defense, but in exchange players have increased luck, allowing for a higher critical strike chance along with a higher loot drop rate. Finally, Rikuro is prompted with the character accessories, shocked that the game gives the player so much freedom with their character designs. Finishing up the final touches, Rikuro unveils his almost naked avatar, proud of the final touches. Rikuro explains that he's personally not into any flashy designs for his character, always preferring powerful weapons over valuable armor. Luckily, Rikuro was able to sell his starting equipment to help for later expenses, but he reasons that he should at least hide his face, hence the bird mask. Finally, Rikuro's game name, Sunraku, is derived from his real-life name, and is a gamer name that Rikuro uses constantly. Just like that, Sunraku is born, only to confirm his final build, laying down and skipping the beginning game dialogue and thrust it into a forest. Checking out the realistic environment, Sunraku notes how his avatar's movements feel very realistic, running towards a tree, only to begin climbing it. Upon reaching the peak of the forest, Sunraku takes a second to admire the vast scenery and take in the fresh breeze. Pulling up the player's map, Sunraku wonders if a tutorial town for beginners is nearby, but unbeknownst to him, players that choose the Wanderer origin are spawned in a random location within the beginner zone. Starting by noting the location of the forest of Rampant that he's in, Sunraku spots his own marker along with the tutorial town that he notes is nearby. Knowing that he must head west, Sunraku leaps from the trees, cleanly landing on the ground with his bare feet, impressed at how his body moves. Making his way through the forest, Sunraku checks out his stats, not surprised to see that his vitality is quite low, wondering when he'll get a chance to try out his increased luck boost. Right at that moment, Sunraku senses a fast approaching monster, leaping out of the way, just as the monster brings its axe down on Sunraku's position. Surprised to have encountered a monster so early on in the game, Sunraku embraces the challenge, equipping his twin blades and taking a stance, ready to fight. Allowing the goblin to come in close, Sunraku dodges the goblin's swing, pivoting, only to cleave the goblin in half, instantly killing it. Brushing off his instant kill as beginner's luck, Sunraku is happy to see that he's now level 2 and that the goblin dropped its axe. But just then, Sunraku hears another monster approaching. Instantly appearing from a nearby bush, a Vorpal bunny attempts to decapitate Sunraku, but Sunraku blocks its strike, managing to strike the bunny, blowing it back. Knowing that he'll perish if the bunny hits him even once, Sunraku gets serious, clashing with the bunny to get a feel for its movements, spotting an opening, only to land a critical strike on the bunny, killing it for good. Seeing his level rise to level 4, Sunraku is upset the bunny didn't drop its rare blade, but suddenly a screen pops up, notifying Sunraku that he's acquired the flash parry skill that'll help when he blocks or parries strikes. Seeing the newly acquired skill, Sunraku realizes that the game allows players to integrate their own fighting styles, wondering what types of fighting styles he could bring into this game. Excited with the lack of bugs he's personally encountered, Sunraku continues through the forest, trying out his new spin-slash attack on a nearby ogre, but admits he doesn't like how the skill leaves him wide open. Shown to have reached level 12, Sunraku puts his stat points into his stamina, continuing the hunt for the rare blades the Vorpal bunnies wield. After defeating 50 bunnies, Sunraku had finally acquired a pair of rare Vorpal chopper blades that deal bonus critical damage. Checking out his current stat, Sunraku notes that out of all his skills, Screw Pierce is the most useful. Checking where he needs to go, Sunraku realizes that he's quite far away from his initial checkpoint, reasoning it would be best to head to the second nearest town, Secondale. At the same time, we cut elsewhere to see a knight in armor enter a town, having just exited the Rampant Forest. Having finally made it to the first starting town, Firstia, the knight immediately stands out like a sore thumb, catching the attention of all the NPC villagers who note that the knight is part of a special clan. Scanning each villager one by one, the knight hopes to find Sunraku, but as we zoom out, we see that Rei is revealed to be the knight in shining armor. Sad that she couldn't find Sunraku in town. Back with Sunraku, we see that he has made it to a bridge, noting how there is a ravenous python guarding the bridge, deemed the area's boss. Excited to test out his new skills, Sunraku rushes towards the python, leaping over it only to cast tap steps in order to increase agility. Dodging and observing the python's attack patterns, Sunraku concludes that the boss is a beginner-friendly monster, meaning that it should be no problem for Sunraku to slay. Rushing towards the python, Sunraku attempts to land some scratches on the python's body, but the snake's scales are too tough, shattering one of Sunraku's blades. With no other choice, Sunraku equips his pair of Vorpal choppers, leaping into the air and preparing to slay the python with a single critical strike. Just then, the python unveils its venom, blowing Sunraku back, who begins to panic. Rushing to see what the poison's effects are, Sunraku is relieved to see that the poison deals 10 HP worth of damage every 10 seconds to his total 30 HP character. Seeing the python taunt him, Sunraku reasons that he should hurry, as he doesn't have too much time left before the poison kills him. Exchanging blows with the python, Sunraku realizes that slowly picking away at one another will favor the python, Therefore he should aim to take the creature down with critical strikes. With his current battle experience, Sunraku believes that critical hits in this game aren't caused by luck, but instead are caused by precise strikes to certain parts of a monster. Since the python's skin is too tough, Sunraku attempts to decapitate the python, but is disappointed to see the creature parry Sunraku's slashes. With no other option, Sunraku uses his screw-pierce skill, opening up a small hole in the python's scales. Piling on strikes and slashes on the exposed wound, Sunraku manages to land multiple consecutive critical strikes, but before he can continue, Sunraku senses the python's tail coming towards him, jumping before he's struck by the tail. As Sunraku begins falling, he realizes the python is ready to gobble Sunraku up, scolding himself of underestimating the game's difficulty, believing that Shangri-La Frontier would be just like any other trash game he played. Snatching Sunraku out of the air, the python attempts to devour Sunraku in one go, but Sunraku holds strong, escaping out of the jaws of the python only to use his flash counter to put some space between him and the python. Grabbing a hold of the python's hair, Sunraku plunges his blade into the python's eye, landing a critical hit and finally defeating the boss. Happy to see that he's reached level 14, Sunraku inspects the python scale and hair that he obtained from slaying the boss, but is reminded that his health has dropped so much. Putting several points into his stamina and agility, Sunraku begins bolting towards the nearest town, in hopes of purchasing an antidote for his poison. Cutting to the gate of a nearby town, we see Mia and Reggie talking about their plan on taming a pet dog in-game. Reggie reveals that he had spent 3 months trying to convince his crush, Mia, to play with him, happy that his dreams are finally happening. Just then, the two are interrupted by Sunraku, who Mia mistakes for a monster, but Reggie points out that Sunraku has a player name, warning Mia to not kill other players as that would earn her a skull above her own game name. Realizing that Sunraku is poisoned, Reggie points Sunraku to a nearby inn, telling Sunraku that he won't be able to save a spawn point until he sleeps in a bed. Grateful for the information, Sunraku heads directly to the inn, but seeing Sunraku so panicked, Reggie tells Mia that when he first started playing the game, he would see players poisoned by the python do the exact thing, impressing Mia with his game knowledge. Chatting with the innkeeper, Sunraku begs the NPC to skip the sign in steps and just give him a room, designated room 102. Leaping into bed, Sunraku manages to sleep, right as his HP hits 0, kicking him out of the game. Due to his death in-game, the game notifies him that his stats have been temporarily reduced. The next day, Sunraku begins exploring the town of Secondia, aiming to purchase a map, recovery items and some new equipment. Continuing to walk through town, Sunraku gets some weird looks from other players, reasoning that it would be best to at least cover his naked body. Purchasing some frog leather armor with some defense bonuses, Sunraku heads over to the weapons shop, learning that his goblin axe isn't sold for much. Asking to see the blacksmith's best items, Sunraku is disappointed to see that his Vorpal choppers are far superior than any items listed. Seeing Sunraku's disappointed face, the blacksmith offers to make Sunraku any weapon he likes, but Sunraku must obtain the materials himself. The blacksmith tells Sunraku that the path from their current location of Secondale to the third town of Thirdrama houses the Dire Marsh Waste. Heading out, Sunraku learns that he can mine for ores in the Dire Marsh Waster, annoyed that he's been mining only stone so far, compared to the 2 ores he has obtained. Just then, Sunraku notices a mud frog nearby, choosing to ignore it, but the frog begins annoying Sunraku, splashing loads of mud on him, only to hop away. Pissed, Sunraku tosses his pickaxe at the frog, slowly marching through the mud to reach the creature. Knowing that the frog's skin is resistant to slash attacks, just like his frog skin armor, Sunraku reasons that a piercing attack won't work on it either, opting to use the goblin axe to smash the frog. Upon killing the frog, Sunraku obtains some mud frog skin, but seeing that he doesn't want to spend too long in the mud, Sunraku gets back to mining. Showing off his assortment of ores to the blacksmith praises the amount of ores Sunraku obtained in only 3 hours. Picking up a specific green ore, the blacksmith states that Sunraku has found a marsh coffin fossil, crafting Sunraku a pair of marsh daggers. Amazed at the weapon's durability, Sunraku learns that blacksmiths can also use materials to upgrade players' items. Before Sunraku leaves, the blacksmith advises Sunraku to be careful at night, as the types of nocturnal monsters that spawn at night are quite dangerous, but nonetheless, with Sunraku's death penalties all gone, he gets fired up wanting to try out his new items on these nocturnal monsters. Elsewhere, we notice that the python guarding the bridge has respawned, but stepping up as its challenger is Rei. Charging up a strike, Rei manages to cleave off the monster's head in one go, distracted as she still wants to find Sunraku in this game, deducing that he must be in the town of Secondale. Cutting back to Sunraku, we see him facing off against a red-cap goblin, noting how nocturnal monsters are indeed quite aggressive. Attempting to read the goblin's movements, Sunraku is amazed by the speed and techniques the goblin is using, praising it as it doesn't compare to any monster he's fought before. As if a single goblin wasn't bad enough, Sunraku notices several other red-cap goblins sneaking up on him, wondering if fleeing might be his best chance at survival. Scolding himself for even considering running away, Sunraku welcomes the challenge, but before the goblins can pile on the attacks, a powerful monster appears. Out of nowhere, a unique type monster, Lycagon the Nightslayer, glares at Sunraku, howling as it intimidates Sunraku. At the same time, we see that Rei has reached Secondale, choosing to stand in the open and wait for Sunraku to arrive, but accidentally draws in a huge crowd. Flashing back, Rei is seen speaking with Mia and Reggie, confirming that Sunraku is indeed currently in the town of Secondale, wearing only a bird mask and trunks. Thinking for a bit, Rei is impressed that Sunraku managed to slay the ravenous python, without even visiting the first beginner town, and even managed to make it to the second town all alone. As a token of her gratitude, Rei opens her inventory, handing Mia and Reggie a coordinate teleporter, only to charge up a movement ability, instantly vanishing. Both Mia and Reggie are amazed at Rei's movements, but Mia wonders what that crest is on Rei's back, learning from Reggie that the crest belongs to a clan that focuses on unique monsters, mainly Lycagon the Nightslayer. Reggie states that monsters with the unique title are the rarest types, as normal monsters once slain or captured will naturally respawn, whereas unique type monsters only ever exist once. Apparently there are said to be 7 unique type monsters in the world, with each of their spawn conditions still unknown to players, so these Grade 7 are deemed colossi. Due to their infamy, players have formed clans to solely hunt their respective colossi. Reggie adds that out of the 30 million players ever since the start of the game a year ago, no one has ever defeated a colossi. Cutting back to Sunraku, Sunraku is clearly shocked at the overwhelming power the Lycagon has, having been able to decimate the red-cap goblins, simply by appearing. Within a split second, the Lycagon appears in front of Sunraku, bringing its paw down on Sunraku, but having broken out of his state of shock, Sunraku manages to block the strike with one of his new barrier skills. Leaping back, Sunraku goes on the offense, slashing at the Lycagon's fur, but his blades simply deflect off its thick coat. Leaping back to assess the situation, Sunraku attempts to taunt the creature, but secretly thinks to himself that he's quite lucky to have not died already. Having gained the perfect parry skill, Sunraku is clearly exhausted from slaying other nocturnal monsters all night, but seeing as the Lycagon is his greatest challenge yet, Sunraku reasons he should go all out. Swapping out his marsh daggers for his vorpal choppers, Sunraku uses a slide step, gliding through the air only to land a critical hit on the Lycagon's paw. With no damage inflicted, Sunraku continues to hack away at the creature's tough fur, with no luck of harming the creature. Suddenly a cloud passes over the moon, prompting the Lycagon to vanish, only to appear and pounce on Sunraku from behind. Able to evade the creature's attack, Sunraku watches as the creature disappears again, appearing out of nowhere, laying down a flurry of attacks this time, forcing Sunraku to prioritize defense. Stopping the Lycagon's movements with a timely barrier, Sunraku forces the creature to disappear, wondering if the Lycagon is using a teleportation spell. Continuing to dodge and evade the creature's random attack patterns, Sunraku wonders how he's been evading and striking the creature's tough fur for the last 5 minutes, but still hasn't caused any damage to the beast. Seeing as the Lycagon's fur is tougher than the ravenous hydra's scales, Sunraku racks his brain to find a way to defeat the creature, as his vorpal choppers are on the brink of breaking. Rushing towards the creature, Sunraku thinks about how the creature is far out of his league, but that mere feeling gets him more fired up, as he scales the creature's body, heading toward its head. Once again failing to puncture the Lycagon's fur with his blades, Sunraku is flung far away from the Lycagon, watching as the Lycagon suddenly howls, paralyzing Sunroku from head to toe. Out of nowhere, the Lycagon disappears once more, right as Sunroku's legs are cut off, falling helplessly to the ground. With a single HP remaining, Sunroku admits defeat, but before the Lycagon claims victory, Sunroku states that he'll one day return and personally take down the monster for himself. Being devoured by the Lycagon, Sunroku is marked by the Lycagon's curse, waking back up in his room. Realizing that he's been cursed, Sunroku reads out the effects of the curse, noting how he can't equip any equipment to the parts of the body that have the Lycagon's scars. Monsters of a lower level than Sunroku will automatically flee. Conversations with NPCs will be affected due to the curse. Body parts afflicted by the curse have magic resistance, and that the only way to remove said curse is from the prayer of saints or by slaying the curse user itself. Wondering if he's truly screwed, Sunroku goes on a walk to clear his mind, but gets pissed at his circumstances. Calming himself once more, Sunroku checks out his new stats, seeing that he's currently level 28, having still leveled up simply by fighting the Lycagon. Beginning to distribute his level points, Sunroku ends up placing most of the points in agility and stamina, once again panicking as his defense is so weak, he'll probably perish after a single attack. At the same time, Sunroku spots his luck attribute, wondering if his height luck was the reason he survived with 1 HP after the ferocious attack by the Lycagon. Trying to think of a plan moving forward, Sunroku suddenly spots a bunny nearby, wondering if it's related to a Vorpal bunny, chasing after it. Hoping that he'll get some kind of rare drop upon catching it, Sunroku manages to corner it, but just then, a door appears, allowing the bunny to escape. Checking out the door, Sunroku sees that it's a unique invitation from Rabbituza, remembering that he had read up on these unique scenarios, where players are prompted with a quest, and upon completion get a rare item or skill. Knowing that even the strongest clans would kill to be given a unique scenario like him, Sunroku is pleased with placing most of his level points in luck, entering the door, but as it closes it's revealed that the recommended level is 80 compared to Sunroku's measly 28. Appearing from a massive tree, Sunroku spots Vorpal bunny civilians living in their own bunny town, but suddenly hears the bunny he had been chasing call out to him. The bunny states that it's amazed that Sunroku was willing to take on the Lycagon all by himself, managing to constantly evade the monster's attacks, all whilst endlessly carving away at the Lycagon. Wondering who this bunny is, the bunny continues to praise Sunroku's accomplishments, but Sunroku only gets weirded out, believing that NPCs should be affected due to his Lycagon's mark. The bunny introduces herself as a mole, revealing that her boss wants to meet Sunroku, both heading up the stairs and entering the palace of Rabbituza. A mole tells Sunroku that it's not too uncommon for players to visit their town of Rabbituza, but Sunroku will be the first to enter their palace. Getting excited about what gift he may receive from this unique quest, Sunroku enters the boss's room, immediately intimidated by the boss's presence. The boss begins stating that most players would turn tail and run, only to be defeated by the Lycagon, but Sunroku is by far the first to put on an honorable battle, praising Sunroku for his bravery. The boss introduces himself as Visash, asking Sunroku to sit down and have a chat with him. Flashing back in time, we see Mei asking Mana for advice, sad that she wasn't able to complete one of the games Sunroku was easily able to defeat. Cheering Mei up, Mana states that Mei is very skilled at learning complex games, but if she wants to have a reason to play with Sunroku, she should prioritize broader games, where she can learn about fundamentals used in both trashy and great games. Mana proudly introduces Mei to Shangri-La Frontier, hence this was the moment that started Mei's adventure in the Shangri-La Frontier, hoping to be skilled enough to keep up and maybe even teach Sunroku about Shangri-La Frontier. Check out one of our other videos on the screen or in the info card above. Subscribe, like and comment.